Welcome to the Speak Your Piece podcast. My name is Ian McNaughton. Big E, thank you very much for joining us. It's greatly appreciated. We're recording this on Thursday, March 12th, 2026. It is 12:15 p.m. Pacific time. It is pouring rain outside of my Victoria apartment, and we got a great show coming up. We're just doing this the day after our Starch Madness live stream, which if you tuned in for that last night, thank you very much. It was greatly appreciated. If you did not, that is okay. We're going to have some more live streams coming up here in the next little bit, so stay tuned for that. That was a great game near the end, kind of. It was a slow start between Idaho and Montana. The Big Sky men's basketball conference tournament final. It was a bit of a slow start. Like, it took a while for one team to get to 50. Eventually they did, but it was a bit of a slow start, if I'm being completely honest. But it all worked out. It all went well. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I think I'm gonna do some like rewards if people start subscribing. Once I start promoting it, people start subscribing. I think we got a couple good ideas coming, some good stuff cooking. I think, let him cook. I don't know what the actual symbol for let him cook is. I know this is like let him eat, but I mean, I've already had lunch, so I'm not that hungry. Again, we're doing this kind of Thursday afternoon, which is a bit of a weird time to do this because there's a lot going on in that March Madness games are next week, so everybody's doing their conference tournaments games this week. We might do another live stream. I'm thinking for like the America East final on Saturday, which I know is kind of random, but I like doing the Sicko degenerate games of Idaho, Montana, and then Vermont, UMBC. And people are like, what's UMBC? Is that like University something British Columbia? And the answer is no. It is the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, which I didn't even know Baltimore had its own county. I'm assuming Baltimore is in Baltimore County. Now I'm intrigued. Now I have to look this up. But I might do a live stream on Saturday morning for the Big East. Not Big East. America East. Sorry. Two different Easts that we're dealing with. There's the Big East and the America East. Baltimore County partly surrounds, but does not include the independent city of Baltimore. So Baltimore has its own city, but it's a different county. It's an independent city. So it's kind of its own thing. Is that what's going on there? The three mottos, and I'm on the, I didn't think it would go this way. The three mottos under Baltimore's Wikipedia page are the greatest city in America, which I don't think it is. I'm going to say that's probably not true. Get in on it, which is actually kind of fun. I kind of like that. Get in on it. I would say that a bit. Like that would be a fun motto. And then the last one is just believe, which could be for anything, for any reason. I don't know what else they have in Baltimore besides sports. Johns Hopkins lacrosse. That's I feel like are the major things that Baltimore has going for itself. Preakness Steaks is apparently in Baltimore, which maybe I knew that also. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, Vermont, they're going at 8 a.m. Pacific in the American East Final. And I might live stream that, although I probably will just watch Scotland, England rugby. Because Scotland, Ireland, I think are playing on Saturday morning. I'm going to double check that. Because it's, the big Saturday, the Super Saturday in Six Nations. Yeah, Ireland, Scotland at 7:10 a.m. So I might watch that instead. Maybe I'll do a stream later on for a later game. Anyways, we'll do a little bit of a March Madness deep dive. I just watched Kentucky beat Missouri. Kentucky is moving on in the SEC tournament. We now have, I think it was 15, I think, after last night, teams that have clinched a March Madness spot, I believe. I'm just gonna double check. Let me just see. Because I mean Idaho, it was 14 spots clinched, and then Idaho won. So I'm assuming that's 15, if my math is correct. 14 plus 1 should be 15. Again, I'm a comms major. I'm not a big math guy. Qualified teams. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15. There you go. I was correct. Idaho, yeah, they haven't been in the tournament since 1990. So 36 years for Idaho. Queen's University clinched a spot. They're making their first appearance in the big dance. So shout out to Queen's University. Tennessee State, they won the Ohio Valley Conference tournament. They are making their first appearance since 1994, which is pretty cool if you ask me. Lehigh is making their first appearance since 2012, and Lehigh, I don't know if anybody remembers, Lehigh upset Duke in the first round in Greensboro, North Carolina. That was an insane upset, because I remember we were, where were we? San Diego for spring break, and we were watching college basketball, and we all saw the score of the Duke-Lehigh game, and everybody was shocked. Everybody was stunned. So we'll see if Lehigh can pull off another upset this time. We're still waiting for the big tournament, the big conference. I don't know what they call it. Is it still Power 5 in college basketball? I know that's what they call them in college football. Still waiting for like the ACC, the Big Ten, the SEC to all finalize their conference winners. And then we'll go from there. But I mean, the bubble is apparently just absolutely shot, because I think most teams that were like on the bubble yesterday all lost, and now we're all trying to figure out who should be in. Like, there should be like 2 MAC teams, because I think UMass beat Miami, Ohio today, so Miami, Ohio is technically out of their tournament. They should be out of their... Yeah, Miami, Ohio lost in the quarterfinals. You know what? I don't care. I still think... I know UMass had a losing conference record. I don't care. You should still put in Miami, Ohio. I believe in that. I think there should be 3 teams from the West Coast Conference. Like, I think you should put in Gonzaga, Santa Clara, St. Mary's. I mentioned all of that yesterday. I think there's going to be quite a few teams from the Big Ten who are going to get in. Probably at least the top 4 from the ACC are going to get in from their conference tournament, I would think, but who's to say? The SEC, Kentucky might go on a bit of a run here too. I don't think Auburn should get in. I guess that's my other take, is that I appreciate Bruce Pearl being like, hey, the team my son coaches that I formerly coached, they should get a tournament spot. I think records don't matter. I think I'm just promoting my son and making sure that he gets the credit he deserves. Yeah, okay, cool, man, great. I don't care. So that's kind of where we're at with March Madness. So basically, Selection Sunday is this Sunday, which will decide teams. I might do a live reaction to that. Maybe I'll do a live stream on Sunday night, because Sunday night I'm going to be watching, hopefully, AEW Revolution, and maybe do some selection takes. I think there's also the NCAA Women's March Madness Selection Sunday. So that's because they do like the men's at like 3 p.m. Pacific, and then the women's at like 5. So I'll do a little bit of both. That might be the move there. So that's kind of where we're at with March Madness. And I don't want to say it's a lull period right now, but you know, we're still sorting some things out. Like, I think there's like 30 automatic bids that you get for winning your conference. So, you know, we're like halfway through, and it's Thursday afternoon. But I appreciate those who they kind of want, like, it's almost the Maction effect of, hey, we're gonna just have our tournament on like Tuesday, like tournament final on like Tuesday or Wednesday night, and then we're gonna get on ESPN2. We're just gonna get these TV ratings that we wouldn't otherwise get. So, and I don't know what the attendance was last night for the Big Sky Conference, because that game was in Boise, and it looked like there were quite a number of Idaho fans in attendance, even though the actual campus in Idaho, like University of Idaho, is in Moscow, Idaho, which is like a 5-hour drive from Boise, so it's not the easiest to get to. Let's see if they have something for attendance figures on ESPN. They do not have attendance figures on there, so I guess we'll never know. Yeah, we're about halfway through. We'll have some more time to go through the bracket, all that jazz, all that good stuff. Got to charge my phone here. Come on, there we go. It does remind me of the time when I was like in like grade 6 or 7, like when I was in elementary school. I don't know if I've ever told this story, but like in grade 5, 6, 7, like I was kind of just hanging out by myself because I was the only kid who gave a shit about March Madness. I was the only person who cared because I love sports and I think this is one of the best times of year, one of the best sporting events. And I remember because back then, like I'm going to say like 10, 12 years ago, the Ivy League didn't do a conference tournament. Just whoever was the best regular season team in the Ivy League, they got the automatic spot into the March Madness tournament. Now the Ivy League does a conference tournament. I think they have it at conference venues, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know for sure. But I used to be that kid who, back in the day, like I would create my own Ivy League tournament during recess and lunch when we were outside playing. And I would just do it by myself because nobody else obviously wanted to. And I don't think nobody else would have got it the same way I got it, which is why I did it by myself, which is such a terrible thing to say. But like I like played all these games, like, you know, kind of did it by myself and did all these shots and whatever. And I think one year I like eventually just got like Brown University into the March Madness tournament. And then I like simulated like a March Madness tournament. I created my own March Madness tournament on like the college basketball 2K game that we were playing with on our either GameCube or Xbox. And like just like created this whole tournament and eventually made it so like after I did the physical Ivy League conference tournament, which again I just did it at like the basketball hoops at Garibaldi Highlands Elementary during recess and lunch. After I did all of that, then I went to like when we had spring break and the March Madness tournament was on, then I would just play Xbox and GameCube, and eventually I like don't know why, but I got Brown University into like the Final Four, which was like hilarious. And I think it speaks to my love of sport, of just loving the fact, like I just love obviously March Madness in sports, and I just love an underdog as much as I love anything. And I somehow randomly just got Brown University not only to win this fake tournament, and then they go on to the Final Four in my like Xbox simulation that I just did on my own, which I have no connection to Brown University. I think it's in Rhode Island. Like I think it's in Providence. Like I've never been to the school. I have no connection. I just thought it was a cool story. I just thought it was hilarious. And that's why I went with Brown to make it to the Final Four and win the Ivy League. So there you go. There's my fun March Madness story for you. Maybe I'll have something on Sunday and I'll fill out a bracket or two and we'll go from there. But yeah, that's my March Madness, whatever you want to call it, story that I love the most. I mean, I've been to a couple March Madness games and it's really fun. I love being down in the States for March Madness because it is a cultural phenomenon down there. Like it's just not it's not that big up here. Nobody has the connections to the school. Nobody fills out the brackets as much. Like it's just not as big of a deal up here, which is totally fine. It's an American thing. Not everything that's big in the States needs to be popular in Canada. But it's one of those things that I remember as a kid, and I loved it. Like I remember John Wall just going off. If I remember correctly, was John Wall in Kentucky? I think John Wall was Kentucky, and then Derrick Rose on like Memphis was great. Kevin Love. I remember when Kevin Love was like shooting threes at UCLA. Well, like he was more of a post guy back then, but still, you know what I mean. So I don't know. I just love college basketball. I love March Madness, and just thought I'd share that. So maybe I'll do a live. I don't know what other games are on at 10 a.m. maybe on Saturday, and then do something Sunday night combining like AEW Revolution, March Madness reaction, all that jazz. I'm gonna do a little bit of hockey talk. You guys, that's kind of what I do. That's kind of my specialty. The NHL is like, we're still like a month away from the playoffs starting, which is ridiculous. We don't need this many regular season games. Like, we don't need another month of regular season hockey. Like, I think we could do, because we just had like the Olympic gold medal game on like the 28th or whatever of Feb. Like, I think we've, not even that 28th, like the 22nd. Like, I think we just need, the Olympic break happens, and then we come back, and then we play like 3 weeks of regular season. That's your push. That's your final home stretch of regular season games, and then I think you're done. And then I think we go to the playoff. Like, we don't need to be playing regular season games into April. Now, my solution is just condensing the regular season. Like, we need to be playing fewer games, not more games. But I think next year we're gonna start playing 84, and we're starting the season earlier, which I don't quite understand, because you're competing with college football and the NFL even more. I don't totally get it. I mean, even you're competing with baseball for like a decent, like if you're starting the season like in late September, you're still competing with, you know, end of regular season, start of postseason baseball. So I don't know. I think we just need to be playing fewer games. I don't know if it's necessarily we need to be doing a like soccer style home and away. Like, you play each team once at home and each team once on the road. I don't know that we necessarily need to be doing that, but I think there's got to be a better formula than what we're doing now, or we're just cutting out so many games and we're playing an in-season tournament maybe. I don't know. Why don't you do like an in-season tournament with like the AHL and ECHL teams? That could be fun. You know, you have like the Abbotsford Canucks going to Madison Square Garden. That could be entertaining. Yeah, you have the you know, Bakersfield Condors playing the Calgary Flames. Could be fun. I don't know. I think there's something to be said for that. I mean, I'm not the biggest soccer guy, I'll be honest, but I think there is something to be said for just trying something new and seeing if something sticks. Like, the NBA in-season tournament, I think, I don't know if people are over that or if they are maybe just wanting something else. But it's the same thing, like, comparing it to the NBA. The NBA All-Star Game, it seems like every 3 to 4 years they do a different All-Star Game format. People are like, hey, this might work. And then 3 to 4 years later, oh, it sucks. We don't want to do this. We need to change it up. Which I think that is more just the competitiveness of the athlete, of do your guys give a shit? Because as any hockey fan will tell you, nobody gives a shit at the All-Star Game in the NHL. Nobody's cared for years. And now, if we were to, you know, bring back the All-Star Game, which I think we might next year. Like, I think next year it's going back to Long Island. I think it's going back to UBS Arena. If we were to do that, I would bring back the fantasy draft and make it 3-on-3. Like, I think that was one of the best things that the NHL did. Obviously, you know, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but the last guy got a car. Phil Kessel got a car. I mean, what's wrong with that? I don't know. So, my NHL thing, we need to be shortening the season, not extending it. Maybe have an in-season tournament. I don't know. I would also just be cool if we did, like, maybe a 1 versus 32 playoff format. Because, I mean, the current playoff format, I think we've all had enough of as hockey fans. I think we're over that. So maybe we do a 1 versus 32, like, I don't know, get the Avalanche to play the Canucks in a best of 3, call it playoff games. say the Canucks made the playoffs even though they haven't even got 50 points this season. I don't know. Like, I'm throwing stuff out there. It maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. Who knows? And maybe there's so much parity that teams don't want to do that because there is a chance theoretically the Flames could upset the Stars in a best of 3. I don't know. I'm sure there are smarter people than me who could figure that out. But those are my NHL takes so far. And you look at the standings, which I'm going to right now. I believe it's still Colorado on top of the Central, and then it's Dallas and Minnesota. And I think Dallas and Minnesota is, I don't want to say solidified as a matchup, but I think it's a bit of a gap. Like, it's 5 points. Yeah, Colorado has a 5-point advantage and a game in hand on Dallas. And Dallas has a 3-point advantage over Minnesota and a game in hand over the Wild. So, like, I don't know. I think that I'm going to say that's solidified, and I'll be proven wrong later. But I think we know that Dallas is playing Minnesota in the first round. Colorado is going to be the top seed in the Western Conference, and we'll go from there. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, it's still a bit of a crapshoot here. I think Utah has pretty much solidified themselves as the number 1 wild card team, which means they're going to be playing somebody from the Pacific. I don't know who. So I think Utah has a shot to upset somebody in the Pacific. Like, their first round matchup theoretically right now, if the season started today, Utah is playing Anaheim. And Anaheim has 2 more points than Utah. They've played 1 less game than Utah. But Utah has a plus 22 goal differential. Anaheim has a negative 7. Anaheim is also 8-0 in the shootout this year. Utah hasn't been in the shootout this year. And folks, I don't know if you know this. This could be brand new for those who are new to the show or new to hockey. You don't do shootouts in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and you also don't do 3-on-3 overtime in elimination games in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Which, you know, I can't think of any other recent hockey event that should have been something other than 3-on-3. But if you can think of something, let me know. The Utah Mammoth, I think, are probably in line to upset the Anaheim Ducks. Maybe the Oilers. But you see, the Oilers, I think, could score on Utah too. But then you have in the Pacific, I'm just going to, like, right now, if the season ended today, you have Edmonton versus Vegas. I don't know that Vegas is necessarily all that good because they've had 14 overtime losses, so they've just got a loser's point, an extra 14 loser points, essentially, this year. They have a plus 3 goal differential. They're 1-6 in the shootout, so they just struggle with shootouts, which I don't totally blame them. But, I mean, there's basically a 3-point difference between Anaheim, who's in first place, and Vegas, who's in third place. So there's anything is possible between Anaheim, Edmonton, and Vegas. I think all of those teams are potential ups. You know, they could be potentially upset by Utah. I don't think that's out of the question. And then meanwhile, in the second wild card spot, you know, there's Seattle, there's LA, there's San Jose, and there's Nashville that are all within a point of one another. And they've all played between 62 to 64 games. So, and they all have negative goal differentials. Seattle having the best negative goal differential out of those teams in negative. So, one of these teams are probably going to sneak into the second wild card spot and probably get their butt handed to them by the Avalanche in 5 games. One of the other wild card teams, Utah, is going to maybe upset a Pacific Division team. It might just be all Central. Like, it could potentially just be a Central Division postseason in the NHL, which wouldn't totally surprise me if I'm completely honest. Like, I don't know. I guess if I was to take a team from the Pacific that I like, I guess I would go with Edmonton, considering they've had success over Vegas recently in the postseason. Vegas is a little bit better this year, but Vegas doesn't really have goaltending. Neither team has goaltending. Like, that is going to be a 1980s playoff series between Edmonton and Vegas, if and when it happens. I don't see either one of those teams competing for the cup. If the Oilers, I think I've said it before, if the Oilers make the finals this year, like if this team makes the finals, I'm going to blow a fuse. Like, I'm going to be so pissed. This is the Oilers team out of the last 3 seasons. So this year, last year, the year before. If this team makes the finals, they are the least deserving Western Conference team to make the finals. Like, I'll go back and I'll do my research as to like a Western team that didn't deserve to make the playoffs. Maybe the Blues back in 2019. That's maybe the last time a Western team that didn't deserve to make the playoffs. That was such a wonky postseason in 2019. Anyways, in the Eastern Conference, my Detroit Red Wings are the first wild card team. If the season ended today, they'd be playing the Buffalo Sabres, which I don't love that, I'll be honest, as a matchup. The Sabres are really good. The Sabres have turned it on. The Sabres look like a team you don't want to mess with. And I can't say the same for the Red Wings. That is for sure. Tampa Bay would play Montreal. That would be a really fun series. Pittsburgh would play the Islanders. I think that's just a both we're just happy to be here kind of thing. Even though I think Crosby and Malkin genuinely want to win one more cup so they could just silence any haters that are out there and be done with their career, just end on the high and just we're good, call it. I think Carolina would play Boston, and I would watch every single one of these games. Every one of these series are fantastic. Really and truly if the postseason started today in the NHL, I'd probably watch all of these games. All of these games would pique my interest, except for I'm going to say like Colorado playing Seattle is like, I could probably, skip that. We'll see. I mean, Seattle, Scott mentioned it the last pod we did together. Colorado has been upset by Seattle in the postseason before. So anything's possible. But the Eastern Conference is such a loaded, you can make an argument for Tampa Bay, Montreal, Buffalo. I think if they can get healthy, depending on the health of Gibson, the Red Wings might be a team that could go to the finals. Like, it would be an upset. Like, it wouldn't, like, they're not my first team that I would take, but I could see there being a path for them to do so. The Penguins and Islanders, I would say probably not as much. Maybe the Penguins and the Islanders and the Red Wings are all in this, like, theoretically we could, but probably aren't potential of making the finals. And kind of the same with Boston. I think Boston is along those lines of, like, listen, it's the Bruins in a postseason. Anything could happen. I don't see it with them, but I could be completely wrong. Maybe they are going to turn it up a notch and, beat the shit out of Carolina in the first round and somehow advance to the next. Who knows? That's not entirely unreasonable if we're being completely honest. So, see if there's any interesting games tonight. Red Wings at Lightning. That could be interesting. Sharks at Bruins will be interesting. Caps Sabres maybe. Ducks Leafs, not really. Blue Jackets Panthers, nah. Flames Devils, that's a Markstrom Bowl. Blues Hurricanes. Oilers Stars, there we go. That's a good game. Flyers Wild, they don't need to see. Rangers Jets, they don't need to see. Blackhawks Mammoth, they don't need to see. Preds Canucks. Listen, if you're in Vancouver and you're going to the Canucks game tonight instead of the Sounders and Whitecaps CONCACAF game, you need to rethink your priorities. That's all I'm saying. I think even just for the fact that it's Seattle versus Vancouver, that makes it a much better matchup than whatever the Canucks have going on. Penguins Golden Knights actually would be a decent game. See, the Golden Knights don't even have 30 wins this year. Like, that's part of my issue, is that the Golden Knights don't even have 30 wins. Like, of all the teams that have more wins than the Vegas Golden Knights, Columbus, Ottawa, Florida, who's having a down year, Philly. All of these teams have more wins than the Vegas Golden Knights. They have the Vegas Golden Knights have the same amount of wins as the Seattle Kraken and the Nashville Predators, and have not won as many games as Philly, New Jersey, Florida, Washington, Ottawa, Columbus. Like, I don't know. Vegas, I want to believe in them, but they don't have goaltending, and I think have lost to Edmonton in the postseason before, and they are threatening to do so again. Wouldn't be the first time, wouldn't be the last time. So, there you go. There's your NHL talk. I think I mentioned it last night during the live stream, but talked a little bit about the Seahawks. I got the hat, so I'm going to do a little NFL free agency. I'm a little disappointed to see Kenneth Walker go. I'm a little disappointed to see Rick Woolen go. Rick Woolen signed a 1-year, $15 million contract with the Philadelphia Eagles. Kenneth Walker signed a 3-year, $50-something million deal with the Kansas City Chiefs, to which, I can't blame either one of those guys. They got the bag. They went to teams that they think they can, be a starter for right away. I'm no issue with that whatsoever. I am curious, though, with Reek, how that works for 1 year in Philadelphia. Because, again, I mentioned this last night. Woolen is a guy who loves to, figure out where the line is. And sometimes he crosses it, but sometimes he'll come back. And the Seattle fans are fairly forgiving. He had, again, I don't know if you remember in the NFC Championship game where he made the 4th down stop. And then he got a taunting penalty. And then gave the Rams the ball back with a first down. And even after all of that, people in Seattle are like, yeah, we'll take this guy back. We'd be happy to have him. It's not like he's a bad corner. He's a pretty good cornerback, all things considered. If he was a bad cornerback, the Eagles wouldn't be giving him 1 year, $15 million. They would just go find somebody else. So I'm curious if the city of Philadelphia what their threshold is for Woolen if he continues to play the way he has in Seattle. If he brings that to Philadelphia, I'm curious if he lasts 3 or 4 weeks there, or if shit gets worse fast. The Eagles are not in a good spot right now, if I'm totally honest. They're the worst thing they did this offseason, the worst thing they've done so far is just kept Nick Sirianni as head coach. I think he's lost the room. And I don't think you should be letting him coach this team anymore. But what do I know? He's a Super Bowl champion coach. He's been to another Super Bowl. I guess the results are the results. I just don't think he's that good, if I'm completely honest. I just don't think he is worthy of coaching this Eagles team anymore, and they should go get somebody else. But no matter. So congrats to Tariq Woolen. Best of luck in Philly. Same with Kenneth Walker going to Kansas City on a 3-year deal. I am going to miss K9. I am going to miss Kenneth Walker. My biggest issue with him, or not issue, but something I've noticed with K9 is that I don't think he has had that same kind of burst and acceleration he did when he came into the league. And that's just because, what being a running back in the NFL does to you. It takes a toll on your body. So I can't blame him for that. It's just there are a few times this year where it's I'm just waiting for that kind of that extra gear that I remember seeing when he first came into the league, because he had so many bursts of speed if he just got out into the open field. And it just didn't quite happen the same this year. Now, granted, he played terrific and they won a Super Bowl, so it all worked out in the end. But he's not the same guy now that he was when he entered the league. And I think the Chiefs will respect that. I think the Chiefs kind of know that. I don't think the Chiefs are necessarily a dumb team. I'm just curious to see how he fits and what they use him for. He's surely going to be their lead running back. He should be getting 10 to 15 carries a game. He's not the best pass blocking running back, so what do you do there? I'm curious to see how he fits in the Chiefs, scheme and where they decide to use him, how they decide to use him. But I mean, he's still a talented guy. Like, I hope what I said didn't take away from his attributes and his skills as a running back. He's still a talented guy. Like, he should be a starting running back in the league. There's no doubt about it. It's just he doesn't have that same burst, that same acceleration. And that was, I will say, part of the draw when he entered the league, was his speed, his quickness, his burst, his added gear when he gets into the open field. He didn't seem like he had that as much this year. And maybe he unlocks it in Kansas City. Maybe, he is used better. They can scheme him open. They can, create big holes for him. I'm curious. I'm intrigued to see how it all works out. So, good luck to those guys. I think for the most part, otherwise, Seattle has they re-signed Josh Jobe. They re-signed Drake Thomas. They tendered Jake Bobo. I think I just saw before we got on that Josh Jones, he was their backup left tackle. He got re-signed. So they're for the most part, keeping the band back together. I would suspect, because I think they only have 4 draft picks this year, that they're going to use a running back, or pick a running back and a cornerback with 2 of those 4 draft picks. They might move down to acquire a few more draft picks, but I would be surprised if they don't add another running back or another cornerback somehow, some way in the draft or free agency. Particularly the draft. They've done a really good job drafting guys the last few years, and I trust their skills to draft guys compared to, who's available on the free agency market. But that's just me. Speaking of free agency, a lot of headlines in NFL free agency. I guess we'll discuss Tua. He's going to Atlanta. He's I'm assuming going to be the starter, or we're going to get into a training camp battle with Michael Penix Jr., which is fine, I guess. I don't really know what the Falcons think they're doing. I don't know if the Falcons think that they're competitive or that they're going for it. They obviously got a new coach this year. I'm going to see if I can just pull up who their coach is, which I'll be honest, I didn't really love their offensive scheme with Arthur, well, I guess not Arthur Smith, but under Raheem Morris. I didn't think their offensive scheme was that good. I didn't think they were using guys effectively. Kevin Stefanski, yeah, he'll probably get the most out of those guys. The thing about a Stefanski offense, going back from his time when he was coaching the Browns, is that the quarterback just needs to be accurate and just throw the ball to the open receiver. I'm not saying game manager. I think you need a quarterback who can take some deep shots, and I think both of those guys can do that. But it is more about how good is Bijan going to be? How good is their own line? Can they run the ball really well? Bijan should be getting I'm thinking 20 to 30 carries a game. And it's, we're putting the ball in the hands of the running back and not necessarily relying on the quarterback. That's, I think, the Kevin Stefanski way, and I think makes the most sense for the Falcons. But I don't know if they think they're going to be a playoff team this year. The NFC South is theoretically wide open. You can make an argument for any one of those NFC South teams to make the playoffs this year. I don't think that's unreasonable. If you want to talk about another big quarterback move, Kyler Murray, I don't know if it's official, but it sounds like he's going to be a Viking this upcoming season, which, again, I talked about that on the live stream last night, too. I am excited to see Kyler in Minnesota because I think, more than anything, I think he just needed a change of scenery. He just needed to not play home games at whatever stadium it's called now, State Farm Stadium in Glendale. He just needed to not be on that turf. He needed to not be wearing a Cardinals jersey. He needs to just not be seeing cactus all over town. I think it's just he just needs a good change of scenery first, more than anything. And I think he'll fit in well with Minnesota. I think under Kevin O'Connell, he'll do well. He's got some decent receivers in Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, I think TJ Hawkinson's still there, although they might have had to release him, or they might have to release him because he's got a decent cap hit coming up this year. And I don't know if they released Aaron Jones, so I don't know what their running game is going to be. But I at least like the idea of, going for Kyler and giving him a shot. But I hope, and I said this last night, I hope it doesn't come at the expense of J.J. McCarthy, because I still think J.J. McCarthy has something, and I still think you need a backup plan or a fallback option in case it doesn't work with Kyler. And I think you saw enough out of J.J. McCarthy that he's maybe not a guy you want starting every game, relying on, for 17 games of the season. But I think he's shown enough that, he can come in and kind of be serviceable and be fine. And hopefully, maybe he can be the game manager and it'll all work out. But who knows? I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure on the Vikings. They're in still a fairly tough division. The Vikings are still probably the worst team in their division, considering I'm still a believer in the Lions. The Bears obviously had a really good year. The Packers, their season didn't end the way they wanted to, but the Packers are probably going to win 10 games because that's what the Packers do. So I think this is I still think before the signing, the Vikings were the worst team in the NFC North, and I think even after the signing, I still think they're the worst team in the NFC North. I still think they have lots of holes to fill. So I'm not too worried about. I'm not necessarily worried about how well Kyler does compared to, J.J. McCarthy or maybe some other option. I don't know that Geno, who we'll talk about, I don't know that Geno would necessarily do any better than Kyler Murray, but I think you're just looking for a guy who is trustworthy, you can rely on, and who can make plays. And I think Kyler and Geno can do that, but they're still probably going to be the worst team in the league. Or not the worst league in the league, the worst team in their division. That's just that. I can't say it any more than that. And I don't think this is a hey, we need to fire Kevin O'Connell here. I think he's a deserving coach, and I think he should keep the job in Minnesota. He showed that he has plenty of capability as a play caller and as a head coach. It's just now, can you find the guy to do the offense, to lead the offense the way you wanted it to? And that's part of why Stefanski, for example, left Cleveland, because they just couldn't find the guy to run the offense that they wanted to. And at the same time, the Browns, all the Browns O linemen are free agents this year. What do you expect? What do you think is going to happen? So, speaking of Geno, he got traded to the Jets, and I'm going to be honest, I'm a big Geno guy. I'm a big Geno head. I think he deserved better than to go back to the Jets. I've exonerated him from the Raiders mess this past year. I think the Raiders mess is primarily, Tom Brady and Mark Davis. I don't think Pete Carroll and Geno Smith deserve the total blame for what went on in Vegas this year. I think those guys were put in a situation that it was extremely difficult to win games. And they didn't win games, and it didn't work out. So then you move on. Now, I'm curious to see with Clint Kubiak, Fernando Mendoza, who presumably the Raiders are taking first overall, how it goes this time around. They still don't have an offensive line. They don't really have options at receiver. Maybe they'll go get some options. They have Brock Bowers. He's their best pass catcher, but he's a tight end. And I don't know. I would have liked to see the Raiders kept Geno as a veteran backup in case Mendoza gets hurt or he has some growing pains or has some issues. I understand that's a rather large cap hit to absorb for potentially just being a backup and just holding a clipboard all year. I totally understand that. And maybe Geno was just done with being in Vegas. Maybe he wanted out too, and he thinks the Jets are a better option than the Vegas Raiders. Maybe he thinks he should be starting. He should be the number one quarterback in New York right now for the Jets. So, I don't know. I would have liked to see the Raiders keep him. The Jets have nothing to lose. Like, the Jets are going to be tanking for Arch Manning this year. They're going to be tanking so hard for Arch. Maybe not so much now with Geno in the room. Maybe that changes. But the Jets were easily the worst team. They have a coach who's going to get fired this year in Aaron Glenn. Easy. I'm calling it right now. Aaron Glenn's going to be the first coach fired this season. Without a doubt. Easy money. Lock it in. Free money. And that's the thing when you say free money is that it usually doesn't happen, right? And then you're wrong. And then you lose the house. Yeah. Anyway, so that's my Geno take. Geno deserves better. He deserves better than to be on the Jets. That's all I'm saying. So, so that's kind of the NFL free agency talk. We might do some stuff for the draft, which, if I remember correctly, it's going to be in April this year. And for some reason, it's in freaking Pittsburgh. NFL draft, April 23rd to 25th. It's in Pittsburgh. It's set to be held at Pittsburgh's North Shore, including Chrysler Stadium and Point State Park. I'm assuming that's between, Three River. They call it Three Rivers Bridge. Whatever the bridge is, or maybe it's the Roberto Clemente Bridge in Pittsburgh. Like, you see the overhead shots of Pittsburgh with, the football stadium, and then, near it is the baseball stadium. Baseball stadium, by the way, I'll say this. I haven't done any baseball talk, and maybe I should do a little baseball talk. PNC Park looks like one of the nicest stadiums to go watch a ball game in. And it is so sad that they put out the worst product every year. They have Paul Skeens and nobody else. They let Andrew McCutchen walk this year. The guy who's almost 40, who they were letting bat fourth because they don't have any other options and they wouldn't pay for anybody. They're like, here, Andrew McCutchen, you go for it. Now Pittsburgh has freaking nobody, and stink. I should do an article on nicest venue to worst, what's the ratio of best venue to worst sports team, because I gotta say the Pirates are up there. The Dallas Cowboys actually would be a shout in that would be funny. The New York Rangers. I'm trying to think of who else would make that list. Maybe the Falcons. There's so many great venues with terrible sports teams. If I was an asshole, I'd say the Rams, because I hate the Rams, and they didn't even win a Super Bowl this year. But yeah, NFL draft is April 23rd, 25th. So maybe we'll do some content for that. That could be fun. That would be good. I don't know that the Seahawks are going to be useful at all. Although I've kept up with the NFL draft, the prospect part of it, a little bit more this year compared to last. So I think I kind of have an idea of who's going where or who should be going where. Obviously Mendoza should be the number one pick to Vegas. After that, we don't know about quarterbacks of if Ty Simpson, who I did not think had a great ending at Alabama, if he's going to be going anywhere. In the first round, maybe he's going to go second round, maybe he's a day 3 pick. Who knows with Ty Simpson? So maybe we'll do some draft stuff too. So that'll be good. And speaking of baseball, tomorrow, Friday night, on Fox, and I don't know who's showing it here in Canada, probably Sportsnet. Canada-USA World Baseball Classic quarterfinals. Canada making the elimination round for the first time in a World Baseball Classic history. They get to play the U.S. I don't know where that game is being played. Let me check. Because Canada was playing in... Were they playing in San Juan? I think that's where Canada was playing in, and the U.S. was playing in Houston for their pool stage games. Yeah, Canada won Pool A over Puerto Rico. That's nuts. Canada beat Cuba. That's insane. And then Italy won Pool B. I talked about this on the stream last night. I need to know what's going on with Italy baseball. And they beat the U.S. and Mexico on back-to-back days. That's insane. Those games were in Houston, by the way. Japan went 4-0 at the Tokyo Dome. Dominican Republic went 4-0. Those games were in Miami. That looked like a vibe in Miami, by the way. Seeing all the well, I mean, I guess you have the Netherlands and Israel, but like you had Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Nicaragua. Like those fans look like they were having a blast in Miami, and I don't blame them. Okay, so Houston is hosting USA and Canada, so the Americans don't have to travel far. The Canadians are traveling from San Juan to Houston, and then so basically it's Houston and Miami get quarterfinals games. Miami gets the semifinals and the final. Well, it's a good thing that there's actually good baseball being played in Miami for people to see, huh? Speaking of, I don't know how nice that stadium is in Miami at Lone Depot Park. I have no idea if that's a nice venue or not, but they have a really terrible team. I also I know the White Sox were a little bit better this year, but they're still not great. I like the White Sox stadium when I went. That was a nice ballpark. I'm like so serious when I say that. That is not a bit. That is me being genuine. Of I enjoyed Rate Field. Absolutely. That is 100% not a bit. You should go to a White Sox game because it is a nice ballpark. It's a cool walk around the concourse there. So yeah, go watch Canada USA tomorrow night. It's time for Team Canada to right some wrongs that have happened in sports. That's what tomorrow night is about. It's about Josh Naylor dunking on these hoes. And unfortunately, I maybe have to include Cal Raleigh in that because Cal Raleigh wore that stupid T-shirt of the enemy in front or whatever, like some wartime slogan, which I said this on our live stream last night. It seemed like this USA World Baseball Classic team is trying to cosplay the USA Olympic men's hockey team, which that is not a team you should be striving for. That is not a team you should be trying to replicate. That's not a brag if you're getting compared to that. I hope they know that. So, otherwise, our Sicko Mode Games of the weekend, because I love to end with some Sicko Mode Games of the Week, are well, Canada USA World Baseball Classic quarterfinals. The Ireland-Scotland Six Nations game, which if Scotland wins, I think, and depending on how England plays against France, Scotland could be the Six Nations champs this year, in which case I'm going to be drinking a shit ton of tenants, supporting my home, my motherland. Again, my name, I think I've said this before, my full name is Ian William McNaughton. Never been to Scotland. That is the most Scottish name you could get without being from Scotland. It's hilarious. It explains my love of shortbread. It explains my love of rugby. It explains my love of oatmeal. All that sort of stuff. I didn't even mind haggis. I remember having haggis one year for Robbie Burns Day. I didn't think it was that bad. So I'm maybe a bit more Scottish than I like to admit. USA Sevens is this weekend, by the way. They're playing at Red Bull Stadium in New York. New Jersey, sorry, not New York. They play in Harrison, New Jersey. I went to Sevens last week in Vancouver. They had the lowest attendance in the event's history. Kind of underwhelming, if I'm honest. Not the best showing for the Rugby Sevens in Vancouver, which is really too bad. I don't want the tournament to leave Vancouver, but I'm afraid it's going to be going to Toronto in 2 years. I have no inside sources on that. That's just a guess, by the way. Yeah, I mean, they're going to Vancouver next year because they've already promoted the date and that it's going to be in Vancouver. They've already publicly said that. 2 years from now, I think that tournament's going to be at whatever BMO Field in Toronto. And yeah, I don't know how it's you could get the same attendance, I think, this weekend of 44,000 or whatever it was, 46,000. I think you could get that in Toronto. Now, granted, it's Toronto outdoors in March, so who knows, but yeah, not a fan. And then this is the first year they're trying it in New Jersey, which I'm curious why they're doing it in New Jersey, because the Rugby 7 Olympics, well, the Olympics are coming to LA in 2028. Rugby 7s are going to be at those Olympic Games. They're going to be playing those games in LA with Rugby 7s. They're playing at the LAFC Stadium. And now we're playing this tournament in New Jersey when they've been playing in LA for forever. I don't quite get that. That doesn't quite make sense to me. I don't know that again, it's New Jersey outside in March. I don't know if it's going to have that. Like, it's an all day thing. Like, these games go from like 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. or 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Like, I don't know anybody who really wants to sit outside in that all day. But I could be wrong. What do I know? So, I haven't checked what ticket prices are for anything like that. But I'm just curious to see why it's there and what purpose it serves compared to just being either in LA or like they were in Vegas before. Why not just go back to Vegas? But anyways, what do I know? And then I also wanted to shout out this weekend the Chinese Grand Prix. I didn't watch the F1 race last week. I caught like the last 3 laps because I got the time wrong. But I heard there's mixed feelings on that race. I'm excited to watch the race this weekend. The Java House Grand Prix of Arlington is the IndyCar race in Arlington, Texas. They're racing around the Cowboys and Rangers Stadium in Arlington, Texas, which is very sicko mode. I have no idea how it's going to work. I have no idea how it's going to go. I kind of want to tune in and check that out and see how that is because it sounds like it's a decent track, but it's a first time, so who knows? And then AEW Revolution on Saturday or Sunday night in LA at Crypto.com Arena. So that's another big thing I'm going to be watching. And then I'll throw out the Ivy League final to bring it all back from earlier in the episode. I'll say the Ivy League championship game is definitely something I will be interested in. So there you go. That's the podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's been a great episode. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do that. It's at SYP Pod. If you haven't already, follow us on Instagram at SYP Pod. You can listen to this pod on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We post full video pod episodes on YouTube, if that makes sense. The full video episodes on YouTube. Check out some of my writing as well on my Substack. All the links to that are on our Instagram page. I'll throw the links in the description below. But yeah, go check out, support all of our stuff. It's greatly appreciated. I'm going to say I'll be back on Sunday night. Maybe we'll do Sunday. Let's do maybe Sunday night, I'm thinking. All right, that's the show. Again, thank you very much for watching. Thank you again to those who tuned in last night for the live stream on YouTube. Maybe we'll do a live stream again on Sunday night on YouTube. We'll see. We'll be back again soon. Thank you very much for watching. Peace out.